Hi everyone and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Rosanna and today we're going to be making one of the most popular desserts in Mexican cuisine. We're going to be making a Tres Leches Cake. I actually went ahead and put a recipe together that is super easy, so delicious, and you're going to love it. So let's get started. At this time, preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. We are starting with the raspberry marmalade, which is a great addition due to its sweet and tart qualities commonly used in desserts. Pour in 1 pound of fresh, ripe and clean raspberries into a saucepan and add in 1/3 cup of sugar. Then place over medium heat. Stir to combine and allow the raspberries to release their juice. At first, it will have a syrup-like consistency, then it will start to thicken and change to a brighter red color with a glossy look to it. Make sure you stir as needed throughout the entire cooking time and be patient because it does take some time, but it's so worth it. This looks thick and glossy. It's done. Pour into a container and let it cool down. Also know that during this time of the temperature dropping, it will thicken a bit more. Take a spoon, or in my case, the spatula I stirred it with, dip it into the marmalade and let it cool down. You don't want to burn yourself. Once warm or cold to the touch, run your finger through the middle, and if the path remains visible, it is done. If it's not, it needs to cook for a longer time. This looks great. While it cools down, I'm going to get started on the cake. For the cake, begin by sifting in a medium bowl the dry ingredients, starting with 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 2¼ teaspoons of baking powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm using kosher salt, so I will not sift, but will add it straight into the bowl. When both the flour and baking powder are sifted, with a whisk, mix until well combined and set aside for later use. Next, we will need 7 whole eggs, and I'm using room temperature eggs. Separate the yolk and the whites into 2 different bowls. Make sure you don't get any of the yolk mixed into the egg whites because it will prevent it from foaming. I also like to use glass containers. This way, if an eggshell falls into either of the containers, I can see it clearly and remove it right away. In your mixing bowl, add in the yolks and 1 cup of sugar, and with the paddle attachment, cream on high speed until thick, fluffy, and it turns into a pale yellow color. It will take about 2 minutes. Once creamed, transfer to a large bowl and watch how nice and thick the mixture is. Pour in 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract and 1/2 cup of room temperature whole milk. Fold carefully until well combined. Also set aside and quickly move on to the next step. For this next step, the bowl you're using needs to be clean and completely dry. Then add the egg whites and with a whisk attachment, whip on high speed. Start on low and gradually move your way up. When broken apart and starting to foam, gradually add 1/2 cup of sugar as the mixer continues whipping. Whip until a firm peak forms. When you notice they are close to that firm peak, lower the speed to ensure you do not overwhip because that will make them collapse and become grainy. That's not good. By lowering the speed, you can keep a close eye on it and stop the mixer as soon as you have the desired volume. Here's what a firm peak looks like. Back to the yolk mix. Go ahead and give it a quick mix. Fold in the sifted dry ingredients into the yolk mixture. Do half of the flour first, then fold in the remainder until well combined. This bowl needs to be large because, as you can see, we will fold all the ingredients in this bowl, and since the bowl I picked is not large enough, now I will have to transfer the mix again. This part is crucial because the whipped whites need to be folded into the yolk mixture carefully and with patience in order to preserve its volume. I'm folding them in 3 different editions. When you finish folding the first one, move on to the second and then the third. The whipped whites, it's what's going to turn this cake spongy and light, so we definitely don't want to break down the volume by being violent with it. Folding the ingredients simply means to run the spatula around and under the bowl and then fold over itself. It is gentle and won't overmix or break the batter. Fold until just combined. Prepare an 11 by 16 baking dish by spraying with baking spray the sides and bottom. You can use a ceramic or glass dish. I'm using an enameled cast iron, which I will leave the link to down in the description area. Carefully transfer the thick and foamy batter into the dish and with a spatula spread to even out the surface. The oven should have reached the temperature of 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Place the dish in the center of the oven and let it bake for approximately 30 minutes or until a toothpick comes out clean. While the cake bakes, let's get started on the Tres Leches, which simply translates to 3 milks. Pour into a container 1 12-ounce can of evaporated milk, 1/3 cup of whole milk, and 3/4 cup of sweetened condensed milk. Mix well until all the condensed milk is completely dissolved and blended with the other milks, and that's it. Set it to the side, we will use it shortly. When the cake is baked and a toothpick comes out clean, remove and allow it to cool down completely. When you remove the cake from the oven, it will have risen beautifully with a dome top. As it cools, its surface will level out and remain spongy and light, just like this one. With a fork, poke holes all over the cake. This way the entire cake will soak up the Tres Leches mix and evenly moisten. Pour in the 3 milks evenly across the surface of the cake and watch as the cake soaks it up completely. It's so satisfying to watch and I'm already craving it. Make sure to soak the corners well because sometimes they can be forgotten. At this point, you have 2 options. Tightly cover the cake with the milks and leave overnight and do the finishing touches the next day or finish it now. I have found that leaving it overnight gives it a deeper flavor and the cake indulges completely into the milk. But I'm going to keep going. The cake will still be delicious and moist. For the frosting, measure out 2 cups of cold, heavy whipping cream and add in 3 tablespoons of sugar to lightly sweeten it. Whip with a whisk attachment in a cold bowl on medium-high speed until a firm peak is achieved. And there is my firm peak. We are ready to assemble. Take just enough of the whipped cream to even out the surface of the cake. Now comes the marmalade. What I like to do is draw straight lines across to ensure the cake looks spectacular at the end. I literally use a ruler. Try it and you will love the outcome. If you decide to go by pulse, that's fine too. But I had to mention it because I do love to share my tips with you. Now add the marmalade along the lines, creating a raspberry strip. Leave an empty strip in between the marmalade. I like to go back and even out the lines as well. Place the remainder of the whipped cream in a pastry bag with a 1M open star tip. Now pipe the whipped cream into rosettes on all the empty areas and enjoy decorating your cake. Around the cake, I will be piping shells. I can honestly say I find so much joy in decorating and giving my work the finishing touches. This cake is gorgeous and easy. Anyone can make it and feel proud of such a beautiful piece of art. I always mention this, and I think it's very important when trying a new recipe, especially when baking. Measure out all the ingredients beforehand so the process does not turn stressful. Tres Leches Cake has been part of every special occasion, and this recipe is perfect because the flavors complement each other to perfection. The raspberries add a slight tang and also cut through the sweetness, creating balance and the perfect dessert. Take a bite of this cake and find out for yourself how amazing it is. Pick up the fork, taste it, and you will not place it back down until it is all gone. It is time to taste, and I am super excited. All right, before we do so, remember to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell. Can't wait any longer. Wow. This right here is a super moist cake. I mean, it is literally soaked in 3 types of milk, hence the name Tres Leches. No one will ever complain about you serving dry cake. Well, I really hope you enjoyed this recipe. Remember that you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I really hope you enjoyed at home. Come back and let me know how it went down in the comment area. Thank you so much, and until next time.